The sus was kind of that thing for kids in Northeast Philly, byproduct of, it's 10 p.m., do you know where your children are? Like, be safe out there, son, don't stay out too late, don't get into trouble, also don't hump the gates at that giant-ass mansion that's 3 blocks down from our shitty postmodern condo, because you'll probably get shot. But no one ever went in or out, and there wasn't really a lot of information available online or otherwise about what the hell was going on in there. The place was a dream, make no mistake, but also if Monster House and G. Gatsby had an American dream baby that they let sit around and rot. It was abandoned, but it was owned by somebody, and nobody on the World Wide Web seemed to know anything about them. Who could possibly afford to live there? Well, that really depends on who's asking and when. If you were a poor Oliver Twist-looking bloke in, say, 1910, pedaling your rusty bike to the rich part of town, you'd be looking at the poster child for having your cake and eating it too. The Wideners, fathered by this egghead Peter A.B. Widener, considered to be one of the richest people in the history of the country. He enlisted the talent of young architect Trumbauer in the year 1897 for a 3-year construction process of creating the opulent 70,000-square-foot mansion. It was finally complete, with the turn of the century, and was called the last of American Versailles. But its short-lived peak was quickly followed by its downfall. The house was only occupied for 12 years before tragedy struck. The second maritime disaster in the family. This one, a global sensation. Peter A.B. Widener, aforementioned egghead, was known for saying things like, "Art belongs to those who appreciate it, others merely own it." This is probably how he justified buying his first-class tickets for his family on the Titanic. The members of the Widener family that were passengers on the Titanic were Peter's son, George, George's wife, Eleanor, and their son, Harry, and on the cold April day, only Eleanor and her lady's maid survived. This was a devastating blow to Peter, and he never truly recovered. He died in 1915, leaving the estate to his younger brother, Joseph. It was Joseph who managed to keep the family estate afloat through the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and a rapidly changing political landscape, as he fostered something of a sanctuary for art with lavish gardens and sculptures, maintaining the historic architecture of the house, and of course, the great art collection valued at $19 million and considered to be the most important private collection of Gilded Age European art in the world. But when Joseph Widener died in 1943, his family's dominion over Linwood had come to an end. None of his children took on the responsibility of the house, and it was sold to a developer in 1948 for only $130,000. So this is where the story gets a bit fuzzy. Okay, if you were a kid in 1948 still on a rusty bike pedaling up to the mansion, probably super paranoid about communism and gay people, you could probably ask yourself that question and then pedal on home and not come back for another 4 years, because that's when things started to pick up again. So if you were wondering who could possibly live in Linwood Hall in 1952, the answer is anyone with $192,000. And who just happened to have $192,000 in 1952? Evangelical Christians, purchased by the Faith Theological Seminary for the low, low price of half a film education at NYU. The group began dismantling the already deteriorating mansion to raise funds to upkeep its sprawling acreage. Mantles were sold, landscape ornaments, pieces of the fountains, paneling, any little or small thing of value. The art collection was gone, so was much of the furniture, and to this day, 2 pieces of Raphaelian Renaissance stained glass windows are missing. A room upstairs was converted into a schoolroom, and the ballroom was repurposed as a place to give sermons with the pews still undisturbed. From 1952 onward, the church took on full residence, living over top of the shadows of the Gilded Age, impossible to ignore in every painstakingly crafted detail by a rich man long dead. And so 20 years passed, till one day, they left without explanation, without warning, in a frenzy, leaving all of their belongings behind in the house and let it continue to rot, undisturbed, unmaintained, and completely abandoned. Maybe they got sick of it. Maybe they didn't see a need for it any longer. Maybe they came across the boarded-up secret underground tunnels not even on the original blueprints of the house, but confirmed by urban explorers to reach at least 200 acres of the original properties and counting. Maybe they found something inside that they couldn't explain. Or maybe something found them. So the stories go anyway. After that, it's really anybody's guess. Sometime in the early 21st century, the house was bought with unknown intentions by Dr. Richard Diener, the Korean Presbyterian Church of New York, who was responsible for the heavy guarding of the house that only furthered its mythical status, but who he himself was known to seldom step inside and avoid the place at all costs, turning over authority to his sole security guard, who allegedly could be bribed to give access to the mansion for $600. I've talked to this guy. He helped fix my car when it broke down right in front of the bolted-up gates of the mansion, and I was blocking his car from getting through. He didn't let me in on journalistic intent, but I found my own way later down the line. I've never met the Bloodhound. But now Linwood's story seems to be turning over a new leaf. As of earlier this summer, it's been acquired by the Linwood Hall Preservation Society with the sole purpose of rehabilitating the mansion to its former glory and opening it up as a historical site for the public. Hats off to them. It's a big milestone. It's a beginning, but in a strange way, though, it also feels like something's ending. There was a certain romance, pull to dreaming of just buying the damn place yourself and exploring every nook, every secret, every little thing lost to time. The idea of restoring the place that no longer sits in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Philly, but in fact borders a primarily lower-income area. And now that fantasy, under circumstances concrete, has dissipated. That chapter has ended, and the house seems to have set its course away from the mythical status of glass castles. Yeah, maybe I'm jealous, but in 20 years, how many people can say they were inside Linwood Hall when it was just still a house on the street, rotting away, housing a myriad of secrets behind those marble columns, off limits to all but those who were lucky enough to stumble upon it on a cloudy day with gates wide open, inviting, welcoming you in.